Just fucking do it. Subscribe now.
This girl, I can't remember if it was her brother or her father or her husband, threw acid on her and almost killed her, and she still did deals. No. She's English. And then we got you. And I'm reading this kid from Australia. Just increased his operating unsecured non-recourse line from 2 to 9 million. Still using the 60-40. Fired 5 of his board, bought back their shares. Now owns 76.2% of the company. 10 million to 20 million. Australia is a haven for opportunities in healthcare. Of course, I know that. If you make 82 zillion calls. Everybody in this room lies between the worst case scenario on that slide and the best case scenario. All of you, somewhere. Let's start with the guy that's selling umbrellas on the beach. I'm making a little joke here. He's more like Delaware. Anyway, why I came to the seminar, God only knows. Now, I confuse him, and I don't confuse myself. If he's the guy that saved 11 years money, or a guy that saved 18 years money, but it's two guys, both from Malta, to get here. You know, when you buy an umbrella for £5 or €8, you know how much profit's in it? Almost all. Because they stole it. Bless you. And his business model was very novel. I kind of liked it, actually. If I was starting over again, I'd probably use his model to gather a few €100,000 or pounds. And he came to the seminar, and now he's done, I don't know, 7, 8, 9. He moved to the UK, and he gave this business to his brother. And his brother's saving up, and then, so I don't know how many, because we've had, you remember the Nazi, Simon, who came, and then he sent his 3 brothers, his sister, and all those people that have all come to the seminar now, all of which had done deals, except the one brother dropped out, and the brother's fiance split up, and she's done deals, but he's dropped out. And if you remember what he said, something to the effect, and this is after you, he says something, the words to the effect that I'm not going to support these fuck faces when they're poor, so they better get rich. He also gave his parents a €500,000 trip around the world in a boat, a cruise ship. And said, when you're done with that cruise ship, you and I are done. So it's kind of like a last mercy fuck. But let's stay with the guy with the umbrellas. If I remember correctly, he borrowed a suit to come here. And I don't know if it was his brother or an uncle, somebody. And his English was poor. Now, some of you people have trouble understanding you because of your accent or what. But I mean, this guy just didn't know the words. But somehow, then the girl on the left and the bottom left is the highest price escort in the world. She's the one I explained to you yesterday, who just exited. And she got some special deals I've never heard of from private equity, but you never know. Well, I know how. Well, I don't know for a fact because she told me, but I'm almost positive I know why she got these special deals. And then we got the pole dancer, which some of you may have paid money for champagne at the near Heathrow Airport. The best night she ever had, I think she told me, was 31,000 pounds. That's a lot of drinks. And she's rolling up healthcare in the UK. I can't remember if she's from Nigeria or someplace like that. And no education. None of them have any education. But they all have something that, God willing, you'll attain more of, desire. But he didn't want to be selling umbrellas anymore. I'd stay an escort myself, but anyway. And they'd have to have replanted my vagina. And the pole dancer, she didn't tell her parents what she did in America. Well, I don't see why, but anyway, that's, And it reminds me of a story. We had a black PhD lady, a psychologist here many years ago in the 90s. And I tell the story. Sometimes I forget the seminars, and some of you may or may not have heard it. And we're in the other seminar room, and we're talking about one of the movies, and slavery came up, and there was a Israeli guy, and she was originally from Ghana, and she had been sold to Idi Amin as an 8 or 9-year-old, if you remember the story. And so he fucked her until she was about 11 or 12, and then her, is plural for orifice, orify? Orifices, okay. And then her orifices got too big, and he didn't want to fuck her anymore. So he sold her back to her mother, at 11-ish. And then she sold her again at 11. And she escaped and got to England and then to America. And she was a goody two-shoes psychologist, helping people that had been abused and stuff like that, which is an honorable profession. And so it came up in the conversation. The Israeli guy, for whatever reason, said that, and I use the example, which I use often, that Barbara Streisand's been in therapy 50 years, and some of these other people have been in therapy. And unless you use the old-time therapy where you're, yanking the bad things out of them instead of waiting for them to come up with the stories. And then she jumped up, she's a big girl, she jumped up and said words to the effect, "To this day, I can't even think about sex without thinking about Idi Amin's 10-inch cock up my ass." And she said, and I am a therapist, and I went into therapy thinking that would help me, undo that. It never gets undone. And she's screaming and yelling, and when I see that, her from Nigeria, I think she was from Nigeria, and the pole dancing, she's embarrassed to tell her family that's how she makes a living. That's also how she supports the family back in Nigeria, and that's also the fucking money she uses to bring people to the UK. We all have a story. Now, I happen to know that I don't say therapy won't work, but therapy doesn't work unless you work. Not dissimilar to this program. This program doesn't work unless you work. Unless, you're sick and tired of being where you are. And when I was going through the emails, the Australian kid, that Australian kid is the kid that was sent here by Jason Nagy. And he came away with 4 or 5 things. It's a long email, one of which I should get rid of some of my directors. Not that they didn't do a fair job to increase his ownership. And he took that away, I think, from when I say I go in and fire 2 or 3 people, whether they're needed or not. And so he decided he should have, more ownership, so he got rid of some of the directors. Now, he doesn't say if he paid him. If you had met the little shit, you'd put money on that he didn't pay him. But maybe he did. Maybe he was part Canadian or something, then he paid him. And when you get these for 30 years, and you already know the model works because you did it yourself, And then the first 5 or 10 or 20 people, or the first 2 or 3 that got up on the Hall of Fame. And then you see that it's not the model. And I've said it a gazillion times. It's you. You're in various positions in your life, stations in your life. And you've got excuses why you have or why you haven't. I was looking at your address in Granada Hills. I think I used to fuck a girl around the corner from where you live, but I don't think your houses were there. How long has your house track been there? 1964. Then it was. Well, I was right. I can still smell her. This would have been 65-ish, and the houses were new. Okay. But guys, you know, and again, I got a couple of emails from some guys in the military because I've been talking about the military, and Cat gets the videos or the clips up pretty quickly, and some that are still saving to come here. And it's easy for them to, you know, they're not on the battlefield, they're not here. So it's easy, you know, the guy's too bald. I mean, when we used to be in that room, the lights, if you sat in the first 2 rows, if you were bald, it would shine off your head, and it would kind of look like you're an angel kind of thing, because there was a glow on your head. And so, I mean, they complain and bitch and whine about anything. And so the guy, you know, why does the guy wear the same tie? And maybe he only has one tie. Why does it? And so I pretty much discount that bullshit because I've heard it so many times. But the first few times I heard it, what a discerning guy the guy's got, you know? The woman's wearing the same fucking dress all week. Well, maybe she's only got one fucking dress. That's not the point. The point is she's here. Last night you saw the last edition, I think, or next to last edition of the movies about the guys that made the world and industrial guys, right? No. What'd you see? Pardon? We're finished. Nothing. Oh, yes, I did say that, didn't I, when I walked out? Okay. I dreamt it. What did I dream about? I had a good night's sleep on it and woke up one time. I was dreaming about what slide I was going to start with, and I knew it was going to be this one. Now, how does she's had like 25 operations, making cold calls. The first meeting she tried to have is them come to the hospital and meet her. She wasn't very successful at that. I could have bullshitted him to come to see me. Not where I am today, but when I was younger, I'm a better salesperson than she is. But the fact that she still marched on through the gunfire, and when you think about the guy that just recently poured gasoline on the poor lady and burned her to death in wherever it was, how did these people think? Or maybe they don't think. Or how short-circuited are their brains to do shit like that? But it happens all the time. And to me, when 40 people watch an old lady get raped and do nothing, there's a disconnect there. There's a disconnect. I asked my daughter-in-law, when she was pregnant, she was about 7 months pregnant or 8 months pregnant, and something like that happened near where they live in Ohio. And she said, I would have jumped my fat belly on him, pregnant. But she's a farm girl, you know, pitches fucking 50-pound bales of hay and stuff like that. And I would have beat him up. But for the most part, that's not where we are now. You just walk away. And then when she beat the guy's eye out, Monica said, put down the grocery, not groceries, Christmas present. Dan's going to bust my balls about this. And turned around. But then once she started hitting him with a high heel, she wanted to make sure his eye came out. She's a Cleon too, like from Star Wars. She has Cleon blood in her. And why she got blood like that? Because she lived under a fucking bridge in Rotterdam. And God knows what they did to her. And none of you lived under a bridge in Rotterdam or a reasonable facsimile. And they weren't fucking you for practice. And I'm not saying you should endure that kind of stuff. But you saw the lion with a slipper. That's me. All my mother had to say is, you don't want to do this, Danny? Fine. What are you writing down, Mom? I'm writing down a note to your father, so when he comes in to get a beer, when he comes home, it's on the refrigerator. Mom, that list looks awful long. What can I do to undo some of that list? And so then when's Dad coming home? We don't know. That was his kind of magic thing. We don't know when he's coming home. He could come home today. Then he didn't come home for 3 weeks, but I'm busily doing whatever she told me that she wanted to do that I told her to piss off about. But that's me, Pavlov's dog. Pavlov was a smart guy, but it's not just for dogs. Pavlov is the guy that you train with shock therapy, kind of. In some places in the world, not in Australia and not in Canada, they still use shock treatment for rehabilitation for mental disorders. I'm not saying that's good or that's bad, but I know they still use it. Why do they still use it? Because it works. Some of you, maybe all of you, save 2 or 3, needed the shock therapy when you're 4, 5, or 6. Now they fry you like a French fry. Have you always been skinny? I'm jealous, but I mean, you'd be a French fry by now. I mean, you know how when you see French fries that are too burnt? I can just see him there with his little black tie on that French fry. Now you put your tie in at dinner. You had your tie hanging out, and then you put your tie in, correct? Why'd you do that? Okay, well, anyway, but I noticed, unfortunately, which one of you in this room uses the wrong hand to eat. The silverware is set up for a reason. What's on the left side, you use in your left fucking hand. What's on the right side, you use with your right fucking hand, you fucking pigs. But a number of you switched hands, mostly North Americans, because they're pigs. They don't know how to eat. I wish I didn't notice that shit. But I do. Some of you pick your teeth at the dinner table. I wish I didn't see it. And you wonder why you haven't done a fucking deal. This is why I tell you, don't go out to breakfast, don't go out to lunch, and don't go out to fucking dinner with these people. Because you're going to embarrass yourself. You don't even know what fork to use. You think it's because you don't have the money. Well, you don't have the money in addition. So why would I put you in a model that is going to embarrass you automatically? As little as I think of you anyway. I wouldn't. There is a method for every fucking thing I tell you to do in this seminar. And I've got 30 years experience, more than 50 years experience myself, just with myself. I wonder after how many operations, if this is one of you, you'd stop making cold calls. With 1 or 2 exceptions, you're all pretty comfortable by normal standards, because normal standards are dog shit. But anyway, normal standards, you're pretty comfortable. Well, why would you? And she had to start going to meetings. She says, they laughed at her. Because this is after 25 operations. She was seeing people after 2 or 3 operations. I want to be the hooker myself. God damn. Just think. For those of you, probably none of you, that really enjoy sex, fuck, pun intended, get paid every time. Oh, you know what the average length of time before the John, the guy that, the hooker picks up when they get in bed before they come? 2 minutes and 40 seconds. Oh, you studs. When we were buying dirty motels back in the day in the 70s with a former Laker, it used to be, he's dead now. And the biggest owner of adult motels in those days was the Mormon church. and we're meeting with the head bishop, I think he was called, and so we went, and it was in those days it was cash business. It wasn't so much credit card. And I've told this story 1,000 times. And there's a little Vietnamese gal with an eye patch and teeth missing, a gun on her hip, and the bulletproof glass. And so they pay, and by the time they got to the room, less than 3 minutes, it was over. And how do you keep track? I say, well, how do you keep track of this? It's a cash business. You count the sheets. Because almost nobody, except for a few Asian countries, will sleep on somebody else's cum. God damn. I've looked at every business known to man. I can just see you owning about 25 of those 30 motels back in the day. They used to have them in the valley, because I don't know if they had no laws in the valley, but of course, porn movies started in the valley. Can't you just see them? With like one of those things, the accountants used to wear, those things over their head, and the thing wrapped around their sleeves, Okay, YouTube.